Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and alumni of the Mediterranean Academy of Diplomatic Studies. I'm sorry that I'm unable to be present with you because the beautiful island of Malta is the home of pleasant memories for me. More importantly, what happened there 20 years ago was a watershed moment that helped permit the Cold War to end peacefully. Still, I want to thank Academy Director Dr. Stephen Kalea, Ambassador Doug Kimmick, for arranging for me to speak to you today, even if I am taping this 6,000 miles away in Houston, Texas. Looking back, I'm not sure that everyone appreciates the precarious position that the world was in during the epic struggle between democracy and totalitarianism that we call the Cold War. Today, after all, the same European nations that had battled one another during most of the 20th century now cooperate. They cooperate on economic, political, and military matters. Though tensions still exist between Washington and Moscow, and between Russia and some of the countries that were formerly republics of the Soviet Union, there is cooperation on a range of issues that was unimaginable 20 years ago. We shouldn't take what happened for granted. For most of my adult life, my generation of Americans lived with the constant reminder that civilization might perish in a fiery hail of atoms. Nuclear weapons and B-52 bombers were always on alert. American diplomacy wasn't too complex back then. If the Soviets were for it, we were against it, and vice versa. Cold or not, the world was at war, and it could have gotten much, much worse. But all of that changed during the relatively brief 25-month period that followed the fall of the Berlin Wall. Less than 11 months later, on October 3, 1990, East and West cooperated to reunite Germany as a member state of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The Warsaw Pact dissolved in March 1991. Later that same year, the Soviet Union simply ceased to exist. And what happened December 2nd and 3rd, 1989, at the Malta Summit played a critical role in the soft landing that was the ending of the Cold War. There was a lot of hype leading up to that meeting between President George H.W. Bush and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. 3 weeks earlier, the Berlin Wall had been breached. News reports referred to the Malta Summit as the most important since 1945, when Franklin Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, and Joseph Stalin met at Yalta to agree upon a post-war plan for Europe. The meeting between Bush and Gorbachev in the stateroom of the Soviet cruise liner Maxim Gorky did not result in formal agreements or in a treaty signing, but the importance of it was critical to the events that followed. It allowed these two Cold Warriors to establish a bond that became human and personal. After their meeting, President Bush aptly predicted, "We can realize a lasting peace and transform the East-West relationship to one of enduring cooperation. That is the future that Chairman Gorbachev and I began right here in Malta." Their relationship indeed flourished, and it provided the trust that was essential for the two superpowers to orchestrate the months that followed. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I am very happy to commemorate that historic moment at Malta, where history really did take a turn for the better. And I congratulate the Academy on achieving its 20th anniversary, a milestone which happily coincides with the end of the Cold War. Thank you all very much.